All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace, love, salutations, and blessings to the house of David, which is the elect, right? Coming back through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai with another Sabbath sanctuary. And this is episode 71. The new age is in motion. All right. And that title, basically is layered right through the spirit, which, Lord willing, we'll be able to unravel it. But the new age, right, the new time, the eon age is in motion. Okay. And, that first layer, you can look at, from Esau and his, new world order, or attempt rather, to introduce this new world order, via his technology, right? That final form of this beast system. And in order to do so, they had to do what? Do away with the old, right? They have to collapse the old order, and that is what you see taking place. As far as these wars, right? As far as the repositioning of the financial system, right? You have a lot more talk of cryptocurrency, stable coin, right? All these things is being spoken of, more and more, right? The Clarity Act, they had passed the Genius Act last year, and I think the Clarity Act is based off of basically the regulation, right? The federal government regulating the whole crypto system. So while that is in place, which they're speaking about it, but it's not really making mainstream headline media, because you have this war going on. You have the talk of prices of energy and all these things going up, which is all according to prophecy. But in the background, that's what's really this is all leading them to, right? And really, those things could actually exacerbate the need for this system, right? Though, as we always say, the Hegelian dialectic problem reaction solution, right? And they've already, spoke of speaking about these technocrats. They've already spoke of how there's not going to be any need for money, right? The UBI universe, or now they call it UHI, universal high income. Um, and you already see how people are already reliant, right? Businesses, jobs, they're already reliant on artificial intelligence. So that is something that is playing out right before the masses of people's eyes, right? And people already have adapted to these things as well, right? Whether it be learning how to cook, or learning how to communicate, right? Everything is now being filtered through artificial intelligence, which is making people more reliant on what? Technology. But on the flip side, or should I say on the second layer of that, the real new age, right? The permanent new age, I should say, is going to be the kingdom of heaven on earth. Okay. And the reason why the Lord, as Yahweh Shai said, that these days have to be shortened, right? The days that we're living in, which is the end days, right? These times that we're seeing that this devil is bringing upon this world, which is a completely unnatural way of life. Okay, he's trying to create an unnatural life on top of natural life, and that's why Yahweh Shai said that if he didn't shorten these days, there would be no flesh saved. And Esau doesn't want flesh saved, because if flesh being saved is something that he can't control, he can't manipulate. That's why you had guys like Yuval say that they create the inorganic, right? They have the power of data, and whoever controls data controls the system. Okay, and Esau is trying to be like the Most High, is trying to merge that technological system with actual the creation of the Most High, which is what? Man, right? Make that into one organism, right? Half man, half machine, a cyborg, whatever you want to call it. And that is why the Lord is going to put an end to this devil right in his tracks. Just a quick scripture, then I'll pass it. In the book of Job, chapter 5, verse 12, it says, he disappointeth the devices of the crafty. And this is a crafty device, right? A crafty plan. See, and when you go into that word crafty, let's see what it says. It probably goes into shrewd. Um, yeah, it says I rum, right? Or I believe that's or I rum, which is subtle, subtle, shrewd, sly, sensible, crafty, right? Prudent, cunning, usually in a bad sense, and that's this devil, right? His wisdom and his knowledge, it has perverted him. So the Lord says what he's going to disappoint the shrewdness, right? The craftiness, devices of the crafty, right? So that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. So him thinking that he is about to be able to have this new world order, right? This new age, and him setting himself up as God, right? And everybody will have to be subservient and subjected completely under his, rule, or under his way of life. That's going to be disappointing because this world, this earth, right? This dimension was created for Yahweh Shai to rule. All right, it says he taketh the wise in their own craftiness. So the fact that they're even trying to set this up, the fact that they're trying to do this, they don't realize is bringing in their own demise. So that is the Lord taking the wise, right, and them being wise and evil in their own craftiness. See, because if they never did this, which obviously, it was all written regardless. But if they never did this, then really the end could never come because the end is going to come because they're doing this. So it says, "He taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the forward is carried headlong." So their counsel, their secret agendas, them thinking that this is something that is going to be beneficial, is going to bring them right into destruction. Right? It's going to bring them right head first, right headlong into their own end. One more, Psalm chapter, I believe that's 7. Yep, Psalm chapter 7, verse um 15. It says, "He made a pit and digged it, and is fallen into the ditch which he made. His mischief shall return upon his own head." So tying that back into, him, the being carried headlong is going to fall back into his own head, right? Into his own ideas and his own tabernacle. I think in Job it tells you that, right? The light of his tabernacle is going to be put out. It says, "And his violent dealings shall come down upon his own pate," right? Which the word pate goes back into, his head. So these things that they're setting up, this new age that they're attempting to set up, is really bringing in the new age of the kingdom. All right, and that's all these things are in motion right now. All right, so y'all got it.
Yeah, gone. um, yeah, and it's a beautiful thing to witness, and that's why the way the perspective or the bird's eye view that the Lord has given us through the lens of prophecy is very helpful because we can see this from the director's perspective, right? We're not looking at it from somebody who's in the movie alone, though we can see it from that angle. We're also able to see it from the director's cut, which is knowing that it's all still scripted, and really the Most High is the one who's you know taking this into the next phase of things, right? Then the new age is where the Lord is taking it, and that is going to involve all the action packed. Like if you were watching a movie, there's certain parts of the movie where like you can classify it into categories, right? You have the intro part, and then eventually, like they say, you have the rise in action, and then the climax, and then so on and so forth. And so we see how the Lord is shifting gears, and he always balances it out. All right, except the right hand always triumphs over the left. However, in order to make this a interesting movie, like he said, even in Romans the ninth chapter, right, concerning Pharaoh, for this same purpose have I raised thee up. That's the key part. Raise thee up. Why did the Lord decide to raise up Pharaoh before taking him down? Why not just keep him down and then take him down? Because there's no good story in that, right? Some of the best stories are when you have a unbeatable villain or antagonist, all right, and that is what creates the yearning for a protagonist. So even if you were to look at the story around Yahweh Shai, his name, him being the savior, if there's nobody to save or no situation that requires somebody being saved from, there's no point in having a savior. So in order for Yahweh Shai's Nomen Omen to be fulfilled on the highest level, you need to have the highest threat. And the highest threat is Esau Edom, the man of sin, being revealed on the highest level, right? The Lord is like taking off that mask, taking off the horns, and basically allowing Esau to come into his full power so that the Lord can then show, crush him to glorify his name. And in that is where the Lord uses all his different avenues he has in his toolbox, right? The scriptures call it the Lord's I forgot what it calls, the armory or something along those lines, where he brings forth the different weather and so on and so forth. And that's what the Lord is going to do. So whenever Esau Edom or the left hand side starts to elevate, we expect that the Lord is going to raise up the right hand side as well. Okay, because that's what keeps things interesting. And we know that the God we serve, as powerful as he is, he also loves drama. He loves theatrics. When you read in the book of Judges, the scriptures say that the Lord sought occasion against the Philistines, and therefore he stirred up Samson's spirit. It literally said that he stirred up Samson's spirit to have him go into the territory of the Philistines to start creating that conflict. All right. So when the Lord does all these things, we know what he is doing because he has told us, and we know why he's doing it. And he picked the perfect devil, right? The perfect antagonist to do this, but he also picked the perfect protagonist to be able to play this role in his movie. So we know that the Lord is definitely kicking things into the next gear. Now I got a precept here. And this precept also, this is why we understand fully that it doesn't matter what they say or what they look like. They cannot deviate from the plan. The script, right, that the Lord has put in his movie is different than actors. Actors read the script and they act, okay? The Lord's script is programmed into your mind and you live it. You don't act out the Lord's script, you live it. So Proverbs 21:1, it says the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. And that's why, and there's also another precept in Proverbs which mentions that man's goings are of the Lord. How then can a man understand his own ways? So the king's heart, meaning his mind, is in control, right? The Lord has control over that. So when the Lord says you're gonna go to war or you're gonna come up with this new technology for this very purpose, that's a script he's programmed into their mind. In the book of Job, it mentions that, right? While men are sleeping, the Lord sealeth their instructions into their minds. So that script is written into their actual minds, into their heads. And so when they wake up, as it says, they practice, when the morning's like they practice it. What are they practicing? They're ultimately practicing what the Lord has put into their minds to practice. You buzz got it.
Yeah, you got something, Shalama? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to focus really on the title of the lesson that you had, because it says the new age is in motion. And when you look at it, there are two nations that are really looking for a new age, essentially a forever age. Esau, Edom is looking for to continue his age. And like it says in Second Ezra, Jacob is the beginning of that follows, which represents a new age. And in that new age, both is looking for what? Immortality. Both is looking for what? Power. Where Esau is trying to attain power on the left hand, but what? Worship, the Heavenly Father is going to give us power on the right hand. And there's going to be a clash of powers to where you're going to see who truly has the true power, whose power is really stronger. Because when you go back to brothers slightly mentioned with Egypt, Pharaoh and their magicians were able to do some of the things that Moses was able to do, like with the rod turning into a serpent, the water to blood. But there was a certain point where they couldn't copy, and the magicians had to admit this is the finger of God. Like, yo, this is a level that we can't go any further. We can't do anything else past this limit. Like, we're not able to copy this. The God of the Hebrews is really showing himself. So Esau's going to have his stuff on the left-hand side, where it's going to show him to be like, quote unquote, a God, to quote unquote have control. But when the Heavenly Father gives his men power, it's going to really show and really grab the attention of people like, yo, what is this over there? Because people like sensationalism. People like something sensational, something that will grab their attention. So when people see men of the Lord healing and they don't need technology, but just calling upon the name, that's going to turn their eyes over there and say, what's this over here? What's what's this about? What's that name? And it's going to gather the elect. So I just want to focus on that part of the lesson with the title of the name.
Hey, Shalom, Akim. How about you, Shabbat? I have a precept to add to what you were saying, Shalom. This is Exodus 7:1, and it reads, "And Yahweh said unto Moses, See, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet." And it's it's heavy how that the Lord set it up there, because the prophet is the mouthpiece of the Lord. So in essence, the Lord is saying, basically, I made you like a god unto Pharaoh, or I made you a god unto Pharaoh. And Aaron, since he's the one that was speaking, because Moses said that he wasn't, a good speaker, that he had he had like a stutter, that Aaron would be the one to speak on his behalf. But the point being, the Lord made him over Pharaoh, gave him power over Pharaoh, and made him a godlike figure to Pharaoh because of the things that the Lord was having him do. And if the Lord did it back then, why wouldn't he do that now? Right? Because we know, and I got this, just a quick one to add to it. Jeremiah 16 and 14. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. Right? So, the land of the north is North America. And that's where the great deliverance is going to be. Before, right before this place is destroyed, the Lord is going to take with a mighty hand, just as he did in ancient Egypt. He's going to take his people, his elect, from this destruction. So this new Passover is going to overshadow the ancient Passover. So if the Lord was doing these different miracles, these different plagues, casting them upon, Pharaoh and his people back then in ancient Egypt, we know that this is the modern day Egypt. This is spiritual Sodom and Egypt. So and this is way more wicked than they were doing back then. Even though the ancient Egyptians were doing a lot of wickedness, they have taken it to a whole new level again through this technology. As you have in the thumbnail, you got the cyber, Terminator, robot soldiers and all that. So they're taking it to a whole nother level, and with their magi's on the left hand, which the left hand represents the spiritual demon Satan, because that's where they get their power from, through that left hand. So if the Lord had elevated them to have this much more power and do this much more wickedness, how much more is he going to raise up his men in these last days to overcome it and to cast these different plagues, man? All right. And you see plenty of plagues going on based off, the words that the Lord has been having us speak. People are dancing to the tune of prophecy, whether they like it or not, whether they know it or not. All right. You got explosive diarrhea. You got nasty, all these plagues going on. I forget what it was called, cyclo something, fungal storm. I never even knew there was such thing as a fungal storm. You see? So there's all types of plagues and things going out. And who has been the one speaking about plagues? The Lord's servants, the prophets. You see? So these things are actually coming to pass, and the power of the word that the Lord has had us speak out here, which is his words according to the Holy Scriptures, is all coming to pass, man. All right? So you got fungal storms, different diseases, different plagues, food poisoning. And that's why, us that are in the know got to, be mindful of what we eat. A lot of time the best thing to do is to get the food and prepare it yourself at your house, where you know how it's being handled and different things. Even then, it's all going to rely on faith. We got to rely on faith anyways, and trust in the Lord and pray on the food before we eat it, But point being, man, all of these plagues are coming forth. All right. All of these things are happening based off the words of prophecy that the Lord has had us speak. And I'm going to bring out one more and I'm going to pass it. This is 2nd Ezra's, 15:1. It says, Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord. Right. Just as he said, Aaron will be thy prophet. We are the prophet of the prophets, Lord's will of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua that are speaking the prophecies. All right. And the Lord put these words in our mouth to condemn this place. And that's why you see all these things happening, man. That's why you see right now World War III is going to be the trending topic once again, any minute now. People are distracted by the summertime and all that shit. But, as the days goes on, we're going to see how it all pans out. And you had mentioned, or you had dropped it in the chat about Trump, Nero Trump having a big announcement on Thursday. So, 9 o'clock Eastern time, we're going to see what it is, man. But I'm pretty sure, that's what it seemed like, discerning through the spirit, that's going to be related to this conflict, because those that are in the know, those that have been watching, we're seeing that is amping up. Okay. They had a series, Trump just mentioned that he's going to have a series of severe strikes against them. All right. And that was all just a ploy and a delay. That whole, the MUA, what do they call it?
A memorandum of understanding.
Memorandum of Understanding, exactly, the water. So all of that shit, is a funny ass name for it, a MUA. But all of these things going on is tied in with biblical prophecy, man. All right, and it says what? And cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. So everything that the Lord been having us say is happening. It's coming to pass. And these people, all of the inhabitants of the earth, including us, are subject to biblical prophecy, are subject to the words of the Holy Bible. All right. So the things that we say, it has power, So in a sense, we have spiritual power, because the things that we say, everybody on earth is subject to the words of prophecy that the Lord has put in our mouth. All right. So that alone is power. Now, how much more when these people turn against us, which they already all against us, but when they really demonize us, put us on the news and all that, the Lord is going to amplify that power, man. All right. And it's going to go to the next glory, like Elder Yashua always say. So I just wanted to speak on that. Y'all got it.
Hey, Shalom Akim, Yabashmi Ashabrakatan. Y'all hear me?
Gone.
Yes, sir.
Kind. Hey, Shalaka for the unconventional setup today, but doing the best we can here. Either way, just wanted to chime in real quick with a quick precept. There's a book of Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 3. It says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry." And this prophecy right here rings so much truer now than it ever has. All right, because this very day, today, we just saw an article saying that Trump has officially gone to Congress to declare war against Iran. All right, and that's a heavy, heavy, heavy thing when you talk about the scope of prophecy, because Iran has always been the one that we always spoke about through the Spirit. And when you look at it, I believe it was either yesterday or today, BB Yahoo was on, I believe it was Fox News or something, and he was saying how it's imperative for the U.S. and the Israelis to come together and to go from aid to partnership. Therefore, there's going to be an exchange of intelligence and data sharing, and basically doing everything together and having shares together, right? And he goes into all these different things that they've planned. And I said, oh, that's beautiful prophecy, because the two nations that the Lord is coming down to destroy and make war against are all coming together and making themselves known. That's prophecy, man. Isaiah 47. Okay? So we're seeing all these things play out. And then they have these people like Elon Musk and these other tech giant gurus and so on and so forth, like Google and Meta and all these different companies, all right, modern day Chaldean temples of Baal ass places and shit, right? But they're all coming out, and what are they pushing for? They're pushing for artificial immortality. They're trying to tap into a different realm. They're trying to go into what? The spiritual, because that's where they know the real power is at. So that's the only going to, what's that going to do? That's going to require Yahweh Shemiel Shai to what? To put his power upon his men to stop that, to quell against that. You see? So again, like Shalimar, you were mentioning about the dichotomy. You have Esau, this one clash, but one side is saying that, oh, this clash is going to result in me continuing my rulership, and the other is saying, no, this clash is the end of your rulership and the beginning of ours. You see, that's the main clash right there. We're coming in with the spirit of prophecy, which is the power of Yahushua. They come in the spirit of what? Artificial intelligence, which is the power of Satan on the left hand side. All right. So all these things are being made manifest, and it took some time But guess what? Is our faith. Again, we always go back to the Lord dealing with faithful men, faithful men, faithful men. Those faithful men are the ones that are going to see it through. Those are the ones that shows that the Lord's word is true because, they made it all the way to the end. After all these years, these men kept on saying the same thing over and over and over again till now. Iran and US, really? Hey, man, call Oya Bashmi Ashai. Today, it's all spiritual, man. Heavy things are happening. Let me just put it like that. All right, but your brothers got it.
Yeah, hey, Con, real quick point. I was gonna say that's an important point to mention because basically Israel and America just did the fusion dance, all right, and pretty much they said that the Pentagon is going to join with Israel. It's one and the same now, or that they're going to implement them into the Pentagon or however they're going to do it. We already been known that, but now they're just coming out in the public and saying it. And why are they doing that? Because the next phase of this war is about to be initiated. And the timing of it is very interesting. And I'm going to pass it. Just want to mention this. The timing is very interesting because you notice they waited for the 250th anniversary to be over, get all of that celebration and all that patriotic bullshit out the way, and now back to regularly scheduled programming. Israel first, all right? Which, the so-called state, all right? Not the actual Israelites, but they are the state of Israel, okay? So the point being, they're entering this new phase because we know that this whole conflict is going to go up to a next level now. And the gasoline shock, the oil shock is all the house of cards is about to collapse in real time, man. All right. And these people are not ready, man. They're just out here getting drunk and enjoying their summer. And in due time, it could be this week, could be, a couple weeks from now. We're going to see how it pans out. But we know that things are going to get progressively worse. And just like the demic, they could really quickly change things like that and make it so that the effects is not a thing of it's going to play out over the next year or so. The effect is one day it's one way and the next day is different. The next day is gas rationing. The next day, all of a sudden you wake up and there's a line to get gas and people are going to be like, what happened? They're going to be asking about why is this happening? But the Lord serves the prophets, like it says, that day, that will not catch you, as a thief. All right. Y'all got it.
Hey, yep. Just to give some more, I guess, current events, because everything's moving in real time right now. It says oil prices surged nearly 10%, the biggest one-day gain since 2020, as markets increasingly price in a prolonged disruption to shipping through the Strait of Hormuz following renewed U.S.-Iran hostilities. Now, they've been saying for a while that the uh, the markets basically haven't been reflecting the reality of the situation, as far as what's been going on over the past 4 months. But and it's always been because that they've been following Trump, right? And if Trump said, "Oh, they gotta, they want to make a deal so bad," the markets follow that. They kept believing him, but what it appears to be as though that either because he's not saying that anymore, right? He said what that I don't think no deal is going to happen, right? I think that we got to take Carg Island, so he's becoming more, I guess, overt with their actual agenda. And I tie that to when you spoke about the 250th year. It's interesting how that day or that weekend there were so many cancellations, right, of the celebrations, right? They had to run into I think it was the African American Museum over there in DC, right? A whole bunch of MAGA Edomites had to run into the African American Museum because of the storm, right? You had that the skies over New York, red. So all of these things are signs, right? Now the Lord tells us that we are not to be dismayed at these signs in heaven, but the heathen are dismayed at these things. So Esau, being a heathen, right? He sees these things, right? I think Isaiah 47 tells you that they have their astrologers, right? Their monthly prognosticators to try to interpret the signs of the heavens and see what is happening or what type of fortune they're going to have. And the fact that the Lord had that happen on that day where they were supposed to be celebrating and being joyous and being festive, you had all of these signs in the heavens that is showing Esau that nah, your shit's over. Him in his mind, that's probably why also, right? Why they even moved faster, like the next week into doing all this shit. Because as it says in Revelation, that let me pull it up, Revelation 12 and 12. Um, Therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Okay. Starting with the angels, Yahushai, the men and women that have passed, right? But also, as I always say, we have our conversation is in heaven. We're of this world. I mean, we're in this world, but we're not of this world. So the spirit that we have, right, because really it comes from the heavens. So we also are rejoicing as well. It says, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. So he knows he has a short time to try to, which is a vain thing, as it says in Psalms, the second chapter, but try to, break their chains from God and his anointed, right? Because they know that when Yahweh Shai returns, that at that point, it's like you literally have zero time left, right? I mean, you already have zero time left. And ever since Yahweh Shai came on the scene, he said it was finished, but your pride of your heart has deceived you because you still feel like you got the ball in your court that you could still score 1,000,000 points in 10 seconds. It's not going to happen. But your pride is going to make you think that you could do it. And that's fine because just like how with Pharaoh, the Lord had Pharaoh get puffed up to a point. Pharaoh was fighting against a god, and yet he was still proud, right? He still believed that he had the capability as a man to challenge the Most High. So Esau Edom is in that same stead. That's why Paul likened that when he mentioned Esau, right? He went into the story of Pharaoh because that's the position that Esau was going to be in these latter days. But the fact that you had all of those things happening on the earth in their 250th year anniversary is a sign unto them. It's a sign unto us, but we're not dismayed at it. But it's a sign unto them that their time is over, and they're going to try to fight and try to do whatever they could do and move fast with it to try to solidify themselves. But the Lord, as it says, let me pull that in the book of Psalms, I think that's 70. So yeah, Psalm 73. I'll start at verse. Um, I'll start at verse 15. It says, "If I say I will speak thus, behold, I should offend against the children of thy Salaki, against the generation of thy children. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me." Right. And we've all been in that position, just like with Jeremiah, right, where he said that, he was deceived, right? Ever since he cried out, it was all he was dealing with was suffering and people coming at him, X, Y, and Z. But that's the position that the Lord puts the prophets in, because it is through that affliction, right, that you become acceptable, right? As it says in the Wisdom of Solomon, the third chapter, that acceptable, that's Sirach, the second chapter, acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. All right. But reading on, it says, until I went into the sanctuary of God, then understood I therein. So it's not until you come into this truth, this fold, right, this knowledge and wisdom, you open the door into Yahweh Shai, right, and he sups with you. He gives you this information, this knowledge, right, this esoteric, insight that this world cannot receive because it is through the Rakah Quadash, which is a gift from the heavens, right? This is not something that is attainable on the earth. All right. And these devils, as the brother mentioned before, they are attempting to try to get immortality, right? Something that has never been done on the earth, right? Except for by one man, Yahweh Shai. But in their minds, they believe it's something that can be done. And it's because Yahweh Shai walked the earth, right? They got the records of it. They know that Yahweh Shai rose, right? And although they try to put out that lie, I think it was the scribes, the Pharisees, that try to say that his disciples stole the body. They all know that was BS. You see, but they're still trying to attempt to gain immortality because of the blessing, the promise that was all the way from Esau and Jacob, right? But they know that the true Israelites, they're the ones that are going to receive it. And this is what we are speaking of. This is what we are waiting on. This is why we have the patience. This is why we have, the endurance, because there is a reward, as Yahweh Shai said, that is with him, that we are going to receive if we be found faithful unto the end. So it reads, so that's why when it says here, until I went into the sanctuary of God, then understood I their end. So their end isn't that they get this off, that they get the new age, right? Their end is going to come because they thought that they can get this new age. They thought that they could fight against God. They thought that they could persecute the Israelites, and nobody was going to, the Most High wasn't going to do anything. I believe in Psalm to tell you that the God of Jacob regardeth not. See, they thought all these things because for a time we were in their hands. I mean, we still are, but we were just destituted, right? We didn't have any type of knowledge of ourselves. We went to them for the one of all things, right? We stayed upon them, and they thought as long as they kept us in that position, then you know what, we have all the time in the world to try to gain the blessing of Jacob. We can steal the blessing back from Jacob. But now that they see the Israelites awakening, right? Now that they see and hear the name of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai being exalted on the earth, now that they see that we're crying unto him, right? And we have amended our ways, now they see that, oh, wait, there's not much time left for us, because they know the records that when Israel calls upon their God, our God, he reacts, he responds, right? In Egypt, it tells you that in Exodus, the second chapter, that the Lord heard the cries of Israel and he had respect unto them. The Lord has never had respect unto any other nation except his chosen people, except his people. And now that we once again have been made sons, right, been adopted through the blood of Yahweh Shai, it was only that number that we were longing for, which was going to come into fruition through the preaching of the gospel, which just has been done. We enter into the labors of our elders and their elders, and now we're at the time. We're at the very moment, right? We're in the time where all of these things are about to manifest. And as it says, surely thou didst set them in slippery places. Thou castedest them down into destruction. How are they brought into desolation as in a moment? They are utterly consumed with terrors, right? As in a moment. Because really, as we always say, starting from 2020, it seemed like time just started to go warp speed. Everything is just all like pushed together now. 7 years, every time we talk about, well, 6 years, every time we talk about like 2020, like, yeah, damn, that was 6 years ago. It don't even feel that. It don't even feel that long. But that's because the Lord is speeding up this time. Right? He's about to bring him to the king of terrors. So he's in a slippery place. No matter what he does, you're going to slip. You're going to fall. You're not going to succeed. Which I got it.
I got a precept. Just going along basically what you were saying concerning Esau. See, the deception also lies in the trap the Lord set for him, which was in power, right? Like the Lord remember, the scriptures mention them as being the basis of men, the basest, right? And the Lord put them on a high position. And so that deceived them, right? Because they don't realize, and this is something that even affected kings in Israel, right? Where the Lord would put them in a position, they would be good, right? They would be chilling, and then they would get beside themselves, right? And forget, like even Saul, right? And I think Samuel said to him that before the Lord chose you, you were small in your own sight. See, because he was humble, right? He thought himself to be like unworthy, and then the Lord chose him to put him in that position, and then he started to get high-minded, and started to deviate from the direction the Lord wanted him to go in. So how much more for Esau, Edom, who the scriptures say that they be born going astray, right? And so with this devil, the Lord put him in power, raised him up, and that hardened up his mind and made him proud to think it was of his own power that he was put in that position. And that leads me into this, starting here. This is Romans chapter 9, verse 17. And it reads, for the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose have I raised thee up. So when the Lord raised up Pharaoh, he did it for a purpose, for a particular reason. Just like the Lord raising up Esau, Edom today, it's for a particular reason. Because in order for them to bring that temptation, right? In order for them to come down with great wrath, they need to have power. They need to have authority. And so the Lord put them there so they can do what they need to do. It says here that I might shew my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. And when you look at something like boxing, how does somebody get a name for themselves? Usually it's if they beat a champion, right? Like even David with Goliath, because of the reputation of the opponent. When somebody takes them down, their name gets popularized because it's like a platform. All eyes are on this person here. They're known for being the champion. Nobody knows who you are. But the second you come and take them down, now everybody's looking at you like, oh, shoot, like this is the person who did this and who did that. So the Lord said, I purposely raised this person up. So now all eyes are on them. And then I'm going to take them down so that all the credit comes to me. I'm going to be glorified in this. And the way the Lord is going to do it is with the most unexpected means, which also is mentioned in Wisdom of Solomon, the 5th chapter, where it says that this was far beyond all that they had imagined, all that they had looked for. It says, verse 18, therefore hath he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and whom he will he hardeneth. So that's why in Revelation 22, it says, let him that is just be just still, and let him that is filthy be filthy still. Because there's some the Lord will have mercy on, and there's some whose minds he's going to harden and embed them in a certain position where they're going to stay in that position until they meet the fate that the Lord has set for them. And so with the Lord raising up this modern day Pharaoh and putting him in this high position, he is doing that because he's getting ready to work a work in our days, as the scriptures say, that you will not believe even though it were told you. Like that's something that we gotta, like, really the world has to get ready to have their version of reality merge with what they think is fiction, right? Fiction and nonfiction are about to merge. The truth behind the saying, truth is stranger than fiction, is about to become very well known to people why there's a saying like that. Truth is stranger than fiction. Because people imagine in their time, because of Esau, Edom, that certain things are just impossible. That's not real. It only happened, even though they gravitate towards it, because when they watch these movies, those are the kinds of movies they like to go to. The action movies, the movies with superpowers, and those kinds of unrealistic stuff. They gravitate towards that, but in their minds, they're like, oh yeah, but that's not real. So they'll experience it in a video game or experience it on TV, but they think it's far from reality. Well, the Lord is getting ready to merge that fiction and nonfiction together and show you what the true reality actually is. In fact, this artificial mindset that people have been in, that's the real nonfiction, because that's not real. It's a mindset Esau has put upon the people and conditioned them to think this is reality. No, there's no possible way. So now people look at the scriptures, and when they read about the miracles, they think that's just fiction. Oh, that's the fantasy part of the Bible. I just take the real parts of it. Well, you're about to see that come into real life. Now, I got another precept here, and this is a saying which the Lord used at different points in time when he was about to do something drastic. And 1 Samuel 3:11, it says, and the Lord said to Samuel, behold, I will do a thing in Israel at which both the ears of every one that heareth it shall tingle. Okay, so not one ear, but both of them are going to tingle when they hear it. And when you go into the word tingle, it's to have the same effect as like when somebody's afraid and their teeth keeps like, shattering against each other, or their knees keep shaking and it's uncontrollable because they're afraid. So the Lord is saying, I'm about to do something so drastic, so out of this world, that even hearing news about this is going to shock this person's mind so much that they can't even, their body's going to physically react to hearing this kind of news, because you're hearing something your brain says is not real, but you're hearing it from a source that is real and is not lying to you, right? If your government came out and openly said this, here it is. Now you're looking on the TV and you've seen, like they're showing these movies when individuals have spiritual power, like in Supercell. In Supercell, in the beginning, it was like rumors. Oh, there's certain people like, oh, there was some guy that flew and it is like a short clip of it on YouTube, but it's not too clear, and you just see like, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, that's, and it's like it sounds like rumors, but when you start to see that on your news, your Fox News and your mainstream media, and they're telling you, no, this is real, but these are like alien hybrids or some shit like that, people are gonna start to like bug out, but that's a narrative that Esau has on his agenda, because that's the only way. He ain't gonna come and say, no, these are men of the Lord with, with spiritual power. He needs an angle to demonize it that is also going to be in line with the return of Yahushua, as to why they need to band together to fight against the Lord. Because if you were to tell people that, hey, we're going to fight against the Messiah, they're going to look at you like, well, then aren't you the anti-Messiah? Aren't you the anti-whatever? So they need to demonize the Lord and his men and his spirit, so that they can look righteous, or they can look justified in the things that they want to do. You brothers got it.
Somebody, all right. I didn't know if somebody had something. I actually wanted to bring out this here in the book of Jeremiah, the 51st chapter, because, as we're seeing, going back to what you were saying about how the Lord sets up the antagonist, right? For the story's sake, you have to set up the antagonist and set up their power in order to show, right, your power. Because if the Lord just came with overwhelming power, then it wouldn't have been, the story wouldn't have been as great. It wouldn't have showed the power of the Lord, salvate, like his power to save. That's why in Isaiah the 63rd chapter it says mighty to save. The way that the Lord shows his might to save is by putting those that he is going to save in a very, very dangerous situation. Because, and this is why we say that those small hats over there, are not one of the many reasons why we say that they're not the people of God, because they don't need saving, right? They're the ones that are, boasters in there. Netanyahu just said it the other day, oh, we have air superiority in the Middle East, right? So, and if your air force is superior, then by definition, you basically have a better military. Okay, so you're saying that you are superior in a military might against your foes. So if that's the case, you don't need the Messiah to come and save you, right? You talk about your technology, how advanced it is, your science, falsely so-called, but you talk about how you lead the world in science innovations. So all of these things you boast in your own hand, right? You boast in your own dealings and doings. You're not boasting in the power of the Lord, right? You don't even say that the Lord, right, gave you these things. You said Trump, right? Or you say America is basically your backer. So where is the power? Where is the glory of the Lord being fulfilled by way of these people claiming to be the people of God? It's not there. But those that are the true Israelites that are want to call upon His name in truth, which is another thing they don't do. We are in a position just like how you read in various different times, right, in our history, where the Lord has our enemies encamped around about us. They, we are outnumbered, right? We're out, strength. And what happens, right? Somebody, a man of the Lord or men of the Lord, stand up and cry unto the Lord, right? Beseech the Lord, and the Lord comes and acts on our behalf. And that is what is recorded, and then that is what is seen as the Lord getting His glory. So in this time around, it's going to be just like that, but on the greatest fashion ever, right? All of the other stories, which there are still great stories and they're going to be told, but this is going to be like the greatest story ever told, right? And we are in we are the actors right now in this time, right, or in this plot, who the Lord is going to use. And we strongly, wholeheartedly believe that we are going to be, the Moses of this time, right, or the Jehoshaphat of this time, or the Maccabees of this time, right? And those men are the same men, some of them are the same men coming back. But is this time where we get to say that, yeah, this was us, and the Lord used us to do these things. So when you read here in the book of Jeremiah 51, verse, start at 50 51 verse, I start at 15. It says, he hath made the earth by his power, he hath established the world by his wisdom, and he has stretched out the heaven by his understanding. Right? So the Lord did all this. And here it is, you have this devil trying to say that he came up with the idea of how the world was created. Right? He's just gonna bypass what is written and say, "Oh, nah, it was the Big Bang, and then you had stars hitting each other, and then the galactic dust, and then that's that's that." And you got people that really sit here and believe this shit, right? Because his craftiness is shrewd, right? Or should I say, his wisdom is shrewd on the left hand side, so he can make it actually sound believable. You gotta always go back to Eve. In order for him to get Eve to think that immortality wasn't enough, that there was something greater than immortality, you got to be a real serpent. You got to be really slick to do so, right? So, um, reading on, it says, when he uttereth his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens, and he causeth the vapors to ascend from the earth, from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightning with rain and bringeth forth the wind out of his treasuries. And I think this is what you was referring to before, Bukhar, right there. So this is all how the Lord, which what you call, we call nature, right? And they, Esau tries to demonize it and calls it Mother Nature. This devil, man. But all of these things is the doings of the Lord, right? And they all do the way that the earth evaporates, the water from the ocean into the clouds, and they have it coming, the clouds gets pushed over, the over the land, and then it rains. All these things are done in its own ordinance, in its own course, right? The sun and the moon, and how that consistently comes and goes, rises and sets. All of these things are done by the will of the Lord, by the voice of the Lord commanding it to be done, right? So it says, every man is brutish by his knowledge. Every founder is confounded by the graven image, for his molten image is falsehood, there is no breath in them. And now we're at a point, and this is something that's been done by these heathens for, since the dawn of time, right? Where they have these idols, right? That's why it says in Psalms that the gods of the nations are idols, but the Most High created the heavens. This is why the Lord told us not to worship these idols, because they're no gods. They are literally the working of man's hand. And the Lord just said that a man by his is brutish by his knowledge. In the eyes of the Lord, the knowledge, the wisdom of man is foolishness. And you see what Esau boasting in his technology, right? Because this is the modern day graven image, right? The modern day molten images. They boast in this as if this has intelligence, right? But it's a falsehood. That's why it's called artificial. He even has to put it in the name. It's artificial intelligence. But yet they're having the actual mankind look at it as if it's a god, the working of man's hand. It says they are vanity, the works of errors. And you even see that, right? You see see the little robot doing karate moves, and then he fucking kicks he kicks a little kid in the stomach, right? You see these things happen. They trying to do dance moves on the stage, and then they end up falling and they're over there fucking twitching on the floor. All these things is the errors, the working of errors. When the Lord created, right, had the Yahweh Shai and the elect create the world, everything was good. It wasn't like, oh shit, we gotta go back here, we messed this up. We gotta go. We need to push the start date back. No, it was all it was all good as soon as they did it. And that's how even in the kingdom, when the earth is given into the hand of the elect, of the righteous, everything is going to be in its proper order, right? Everything is going to be good. Ain't going to be no errors that are going to be done. It says, in the time of their visitation, they shall perish. So when the Yahushai comes, and even before that, right, you have certain things that are happening, right? That is, I believe, I remember maybe it was like last year, 2 years ago, you had a big earthquake that hit, I think Tibet, where the monks and their temples was at, and you had a bunch of them die, right? And here it is. They're supposed to be so-called righteous men, godly men, but obviously they don't follow the right God. But where was their God to save them? So all of that is going to perish. All of these devils and their idol worship, their so-called holidays and the things that they boast in, all that's going to perish. Their AI technology, their robots, all of that is going to perish as well. But see, what the Lord is doing is He's going to have that perish by way of, as we're going to get into it, as a battle between his arm, his right arm, versus Esau's right arm, right? With his power, right? The right arm meaning power. So you're going to see who really is the true God. And as it reads, it says, the portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things. And Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Lord of hosts is his name. So the Lord is going to use Jacob, right? The Israelites, mainly the elect, the men, right, to be his rod. And as we read, thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. For with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. Just like how Esau, in his new age desire to use technology to get his superiority, right? The race to AI and who is going to have the best, models and the robotics and all these things. That is ultimately to do what? All of those technologies is all military industrial complex workings, man. It's not AI, open AI, Claude. This shit's not for the regular people. They give you the basics of you want to go talk to them and have a little boyfriend or girlfriend, weird shit. But what they're really doing is all for what? Is all for the military industrial complex to have dominion on the earth. That's what this is all about. It's all about power, man. Right? But the Lord is going to use his sons, his creation, right? Which He created everything, but his sons to destroy their creation, and that is what the world is going to witness. It says, "And with thee will I break in pieces the horse and his rider, and with thee will I break in pieces the chariot and his rider," because this is what this devil boasts in. See, if they didn't have this technology, if they didn't have this military might, they didn't have all of these things, this devil, he would just be like I've always mentioned, he would be like Homelander, right? You take away Homelander's power, what? He cries like a little bitch. That's what Esau. That is what who Esau really is. You take away his weapon. That's why when you see even now a lot of these tough Edomites, right, and they talk tough, is because they got a gun on them. You take away Esau's gun, they're not tough. They don't talk tough. It's either they got to be in packs. They show you that in the Jim Crow era laws, right, where they will all come in a pack and they'll go to get one Jake. But if it was just a one-on-one type of situation, but you didn't have a weapon, you ain't gonna be like that, man. You never see no Edomite just go up to a Jake and just start talking shit. That don't happen. But so, like, brother, want to say something?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say it's funny you said that. I did see an Edomite come up to Jake, but he got knocked the fuck out quick. He was on some kickboxing. You can tell he was training and shit. And Jake didn't give a fuck. Jake had hands and just mopped him up real quick. But and Jake wasn't even trying to have the conflict. The devil kept you saying, "Hey, you nigga," then he got all mad, and Jake just mopped him up. So, hey, man, how much more when we get those glorified bodies, man?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Let me finish this up and I'll pass it. Um, it says, "With thee will I break in pieces the chariot and his rider. With thee will I break in pieces man and woman." Right. So, hey, these Edomite women, these heathen women, and even some of these wicked ass Jake women, we gonna need spiritual powers to take care of them big backs. It says that with thee will I break in pieces old and young, and with thee will I break in pieces the young maid and the young man and his maid. And I will also break in pieces with thee the shepherd and his flock, and with thee will I break in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen, and with thee will I break in pieces captains and rulers. So everybody's going to get it, by the hand of the Lord. Even in I think Ezekiel the 25th chapter, the Lord said that that Esau is going to know his vengeance that he is going to lay upon him by his hand, by his people Israel. That's how you're going to know the vengeance. You got it.
Yeah, gone. And when you said that, I was thinking about Judas Maccabees, right? I have an account here, and when you read about Judas Maccabees or Maccabeus, when the scriptures describe, even when you're reading in First Maccabees, which I have here, the scriptures describe the way that he warred, right, in the spirit. It was like it's done in a way where it's like it didn't explicitly say that he had spiritual power, and yet in his warlike strength he was feared, right, because the Lord obviously was with him, that he would prosper. But he wasn't, it didn't say like he was running around with like Samson like strength and the one-handed ripping people up in half. So if he could cause that much fear, and he was able to bring that much destruction upon our enemies in that time, how much more for now in this time, when the Lord brings, and the reason this time it's going to be unimaginable is because remember, back then they were dealing with swords, shields, bows, arrows, elephants, and all of those. Today you're dealing with bullets, right, which are much faster than arrows. Okay, today you're dealing with unmanned drones. You're dealing with Apache helicopters, stealth helicopters, bombers, SWAT teams, damn near freaking AI humanoid robots. Okay, super soldiers. These are the shit that you're dealing with. Technology that is like powered by AI that moves very quickly. Like literally killer type technology. Yeah, different kind of elephants we're dealing with today. But all of these, which are a part of Esau's arsenal, the Lord is gonna have to balance that. Why wasn't Samson shooting lasers from his eyes? Because he didn't need to. But in this time, we're gonna need that kind of next level power, divine intervention. Because if Lord, imagine Lord give you saying weak, here it is, enemies are coming, all you can do is turn into a puddle of water, and then you turn back into human. Listen, bro, you might as well not have nothing because you can't cook. So
Hey, Bruce Lee said be like water, brother.
Yeah, but see, Bruce Lee, he knew martial arts. All you know is turn into a puddle and shit. The Lord ain't gonna have you represent him looking like that. He's like Pastor said in his latest video, the power is gonna be overwhelming, right? Because even those that experience it, Lord willing, that's us, where we be a part of those men, you will feel that, damn, like this is the power of the Lord. Like this, like I expected something, but if this is a fraction of the Lord's power, my goodness. Because remember, Samson, the scriptures say that when he was done slaying the Philistines, he says he was thirsty unto death. Like he needed water, because that's how heavy the spirit was on him. It said that like when he got activated, it said the bands that were on his hands burnt like flax. Like shit, bro. So you can imagine how intense the spirit of the Lord actually is when it's heightened and concentrated in this human vessel that we're in. So the time that we're coming into, like, you're gonna feel that power, and you are gonna feel like almost like overwhelmed, like, oh like yo. Yeah. So anyway, let me not get too much into it. This is First Maccabees chapter 3 verse 1. It says, then his son Judas, called Maccabeus, rose up in his stead. And this is after Mattathias, their father, had died. And all his brethren helped him, and so did all they that held with his father. And they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. So the Lord raised up, right, the Hasmonean family, the Lord raised them up as a defense, as a standard in their time against the enemy that came in like a flood. Because that is how Antiochus and his armies came in, like a flood. And the Lord raised up the standard via the Hasmonean family. So it says, verse 3, so he gat his people great honor, and put on a breastplate as a giant, and girt his warlike harness about him, and he made battles, protecting the host with his sword, to the point where whenever it tells you in the scriptures, whenever his name was heard, the people over there feared. The enemies feared. Like, they were hosts where when they would hear Judas is coming, oh shit, not him. The one person we needed not to come is the one that's on his way. And rightfully so, they will get cooked. because Judas himself understood. And it's interesting because that's kind of like what King David would also say, that whenever he would go to war, it was the Lord that would give them the victory or not. That's why King David would always ask, Lord, should I go and go against the Philistines, or should I wait? Will you bring them and deliver them into my hands? And the Lord will tell him, okay, don't go, or wait, or go over here, or flank them, because the Lord is a man of war. So he gets excited when during these kinds of states. That's why, if you notice, most of the scriptures are revolved around conflict. Okay, most of the aspects in the scriptures is war. Whether we're losing or we're winning, there's a lot of wars. I think there's even a book called the Book of the Wars of the Lord, that's referenced in the scriptures, but it's not actually, like, we don't actually have access to it. So when you read the scriptures, the Lord is always dealing with war. That's why he's called a man of war. You think in this time, the man of war is going to have it be some regular old casual, slice of life, romance novel kind of shit? No, that's why he's raising up the left hand and pushing this age into a new level. Okay. Verse 4 says, in his acts, he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp roaring for his prey. For he pursued the wicked and sought them out and burnt up those that vex his people. So you can only imagine, if a man was doing this with his regular human-like strength, how much more for, the Lord, lifting up men in this time. Now, obviously, you got to keep in mind that there is an order to prophecy. Like, the Lord ain't gonna give you spiritual power and say, okay, now go and take down the Esau Edom. That's not the point. It's for a purpose. The one who's ultimately going to take down Esau Edom is the Lord via Yahushai. But if you look at Elijah had spiritual power, but he still feared for his life. Like Elisha had spiritual power, but why did Elisha get up and say, you know what? Forget this. The Syrians are coming against us. I'm gonna just freaking cause an earthquake and just drown the whole land of Syria. He didn't do that, because everything had a purpose. Like, his purpose wasn't to do that. So the Lord has everything planned strategically and how he's going to do it, but we know that it's going to be glorious and perfect and unimaginable. Okay, that is the power of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai and the new age that we're about to experience, and the whole world is about to see. That's it.
Hey, that's beautiful. Yep. Um, but I have something else here. Well, actually, I did have one more here. This is Second Chronicles chapter 20, and I'm gonna jump, but just to give the background, as the subtitle reads, "A War with Surrounding Nations," right? And this is a time where, during the reign of Jehoshaphat, you had the Moabites, the Ammonites, and the Edomites, right? They basically joined forces to come and try to, fight against Judah, right? Because the kingdom was split during this time. And you had Jehoshaphat. I'm read this right here in the NLT, verse 3. It says, Jehoshaphat was terrified by the news and begged the Lord for guidance. He also ordered everyone in Judah to begin fasting. So what did he do? Because Jehoshaphat was a righteous king, a king that did good in the sight of the Lord. So what did he do? He instructed everyone to seek the Lord, right? Seek the Lord's guidance, and that is the difference from what the men of the Lord are saying than what everybody else is saying, right? Because you have these so-called truthers and these podcasters that they're speaking about this war, and then they're talking about trying to get some provisions, food, stock up, right? Get some weapons just in case it goes dark and X, Y, and Z. But nobody is saying to seek the Lord. All right. Nobody is saying to trust in Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua. The only ones who are saying that are the prophets, because that is the message that the Lord always gave into the prophets. You see? And it's interesting because what we're doing right here is basically like a podcast. And we watch, various podcasts throughout the day, right? Mario, I forgot Nawal, I forgot his name, but you have certain people that do podcasts and they have thousands of views, and hundreds of thousands of views, thousands of likes, all these things. And not once is anybody, speaking about, hey, well, we should seek the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because that's not their lot, right? This is the lot of the prophets. Okay, so um, going on, it says, I'm going to jump. It says, verse 6, it says, he prayed, "O Lord God of our ancestors, you alone are the God who is in heaven. You are the ruler of all the kingdoms of the earth. You are powerful and mighty. No one can stand against you." And this is something that we also, have that knowledge of, right? That the Lord at the end of the day is controlling both sides of this, right? He's controlling Esau, he's controlling these other nations, right? Iran and America and the 48ers, them all fighting is all according to the Lord's doing. See? And no one can actually stand against the Lord. But he is our God. It says, "Oh, our God, did you not drive out those who lived in this land when your people Israel arrived? And did you not give this land forever to the descendants of your friend Abraham? Your people settled here and built this temple to honor your name. They said, whenever we are faced with any calamity, such as war, plague, or famine, we can come to stand in your presence before this temple where your name is honored," right? And that was by way of the prayer of Solomon. "We can cry out to you to save us, and you will hear us and rescue us. And now see what the armies of Ammon and Moab and Mount Seir are doing. You would not let our ancestors invade those nations when Israel left Egypt, so they went around them and did not destroy them. Now see how they reward us, for they have come to throw us out of your land, which you gave us as an inheritance." It says, "Oh God, won't you stop them? We are powerless against this mighty army that is about to attack us. We do not know what to do, but we are looking to you for help." Okay, and that is the same, a sentiment that we are in right now, right? We know that, I think King David said it, right? That we are in the hand of them that is stronger than us. Deliver us out of the hand that is strong. Deliver me out of the hand that is stronger than me. So we're in that same position. We know that when it comes to an actual, uh, nation against nation war. So on a carnal level, there's nothing that we can do against the devil. Even Joe Biden's old ass said it. If you want to take over a nation, you need some F-16s and B-2 bombers, right? Yeah, his old ass is boasting and telling us like, yeah, y'all niggas can't do shit against us. See, but that's a great position to be in, because that is how the Lord, that pride that he has in the position that the Lord has us in, now has to invoke the Lord to do what? He has to work on our behalf, because we're calling upon him, right? We're saying like, look, we know that we're in this position, but we know that you can get us out of this position. You got the power to save us. So we're going to call your name. We're going to say it out there. We're going to put it on camera. We're going to put it on wax. We're going to tell it every Saturday. We're going to do it every day. We're going to keep saying it. We're going to keep saying it. We're going to tell other people to say it. And now you got to do it because your name is there. And we know you're not going to let your name get tarnished in front of these heathens, Lord. We know you're not going to do that. So he going to do it. Right? So let me read this and I'm going to jump. I'll finish it out. Verse 25, Salaki, 15. 14, it says, "The Spirit of the Lord came upon the men standing there, came upon one of the men standing there. His name was Jaziel, son of Zechariah, son of Benaniah, son of Jael, son of Mattaniah, a Levite who was a descendant of Asaph. He said, 'Listen, all you people of Judah and Jerusalem. Listen, King Jehoshaphat.'" So basically a prophet stood up, right? And he prophesied, because it said the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. Just like with Samson, but the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson to get physical. But with him, it came upon him to prophesy. So we have the Spirit of the Lord upon us right now to prophesy, but the Spirit of the Lord also, it got different channels, right? You can do different things with the Spirit of the Lord. It says, "Don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged by this mighty army, for the battle is not yours, but the Most High's." Okay, and that's something that you always gotta keep in mind, right? When we see how this devil is raising up and the things that he's doing, understand that they be ye still, for the battle is not ours, right? The Lord didn't put us here to tell us, all right, let me see what you can do. go out there and do. No, all he told us to do is just have faith, and then you will see what I'm gonna do. So with that, we'll close it out. If nobody's got anything else, Lord willing, this was edifying unto the elect, giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash, Shalom.